Well, hi again. 2 days in a row. Yay for me. Going strong. I particularly wanted to jump on because I was on Facebook and Caltech did a live broadcast. I may still be doing a live broadcast talking about the earthquakes, plural, that are going on. Luckily, deep in the deserts, but close enough to the LA region that a lot of people felt significant shaking going on in that general region. They said the people that were walking around outside definitely were feeling it, and people higher up in the buildings might have actually felt some sway. But for the most part, nobody has been reporting any damage in the LA area. I did see on the chat on Dutch's Room, which is what is on in the background, Dutch Senses channel, which I follow. I used to subscribe to there, but at the moment I'm not a subscriber. As you can see, rolling by right now is that a big circle with lots of little things coming off the top of it. If you have never seen this globe before, I'll try to explain that this is called an earthquake stack because there's at least a couple dozen over the last hour and a half, I think, at this point, going on 2 hours, since the two big 6.4s that hit evidently one after another. I guess they were distinct enough. And I'll flip on there. I don't know why this is saying Twitch is unreachable, since obviously I'm reaching Twitch. I'm actually using the Twitch app here as opposed to going through the browser. So, yeah, they just updated again. And you can see here, it indicates, the red indicates brand new earthquakes. This is a listing. This is the USGS sites. Earthquake magnitude 2.5 or greater for the US for 1 day. And I've expanded that. So let's contract that so you can see the area that we're looking at. So for those of you who have no geographic sense, I will point out that this is the United States. Here's Mexico. This is Texas. And then New Mexico, Arizona is that little where New Mexico and Arizona join is right there where that dog leg is the little notch, which is part of New Mexico, and that's where El Paso is right where that jaggedy line starts, which is the Rio Grande that goes all the way down to the Gulf. This is where the border wall will never be built. Sorry, fans of border walls. So that's the border wall has about I think the last time I heard somewhere in the 600 to 700 miles of that 1,400 mile stretch that takes it from just south of San Diego into New Mexico, hitting right around where El Paso is. Not exactly El Paso, but El Paso is just a little bit down here. Anyway, so let me zoom out here. Oh, well, I'm still out here. There was another big quake off the coast of Canada earlier today. Not too long before. Let me see if I click into it. So that says 4:30. That's UTC. So that was actually yesterday. Would have been yesterday evening, California Pacific Coast time, and that certainly was way out in the desert. And as you can see, there really nobody felt that. Blues and greens usually indicate that there's nobody that's felt it, and it was pretty close. 10 kilometers is pretty close to the surface there. So let's go back out here. That's Vancouver Island, just in case you guys don't know. And if you go north of here, that's the bottom of Alaska here. Vancouver, and that's Washington State. This is an area where there's multiple plates that come together. This is the Juan de Fuca plate, which is separate. So there's a subduction zone that the plate that is the Pacific goes underneath the United States. So the United States actually is riding on top of this. So it's moving, North America is moving westward. If you look at some of the maps, geological maps, you can actually see where Yellowstone is, just in case you don't know where Yellowstone is. So here is Montana, here's Wyoming, this is Idaho. I was trying to tell somebody who had never been up there, and I kept on thinking, what's next to her? I could not, the life of me, think of what it was. I told her Utah, and it was definitely not Utah. So that's Idaho. See, there's still earthquakes going on, lots and lots of earthquakes. We'll get to that in a second. Hello, Adam. I'm not watching my chat very much, so obviously I'm looking mostly at my screen. Right now it's getting, by the way, I'm getting good light because it's between rainstorms, but we've been having some pretty significant rains. I do have my overhead light on because it was dark enough in here earlier to warrant having a light on in the middle of the day. Yesterday it was quite bright and sunny until a rain system came through as well. But that didn't last very long. The night before was when I had the power outage that I filmed. If you saw my broadcast, I did a little video on my phone and published that to my Facebook page. Anyway, if you follow me on Facebook, um, I'll share that in the chat, I guess, if anybody's interested. But at the moment, I think everybody that's in the chat room that I know is on my Facebook, so they would know that. Anyway, let me yammer on a little longer, giving you some more, evidentially, some more information. So what we call the San Andreas Fault, which is this red line that goes all the way up the coast from basically what is around the I can think what's Palm Springs. Palm Springs area down here is where that originates from, and then there's another piece of fault line that goes from the most southern tip of California into the Gulf of California, which is Baja California. So this is the piece that hangs down that's separate from the principal part of Mexico. So you can see there's quite a bit of jagged line there, and that's where it's being pulled apart, basically. And that's the fact that this is here is why this jagged line, which was originally, as you can kind of see, if you can kind of match up this little notch here with this little notch here. So that used to be, that's pulling apart from the coastline ever so slightly on a regular basis, so slow that we can't really see it. It's usually when the big earthquakes happen that you get that noticeable pull away. But in the course of the average human lifetimes, you're probably not going to get that much definition. Although they were talking about in this Caltech video live cast that I was watching earlier, they were trying to explain what they were going to go look for out in the desert. Of course, on the desert, it's really hard to see things happening because most of the land is, flat, sandy, unremarkable. So it usually takes something pretty significant, like some known feature that is suddenly different than and looks from what it was before between the two. Between the first time they looked at it and the second time they look at it, you can understand. So one of the things that they say is, so I'll try to explain. So one of the things they look for is roads. So if you have a road, let's see where this is. So if you have a road and it's like this, let me see if I can get my orientation in my hands. So if you have a 5-foot slippage, which doesn't seem like a lot, but if you can understand that most house ceilings, residential house ceilings, are between 8 to 10 feet tall, that's like a lot. So you could have a road that goes like, whoot. Sorry, it's hard to figure out. So yeah, so it could be like that. So you have like the side of a road that's now in the ditch, or it could raise up. It could slide side to side, or it could go up and down. So an up and down movement would be, so it's all of a sudden it could be 5 feet taller, and I'm just using 5. It doesn't necessarily mean, but we're talking about a 5-foot slippage. So it could be a side to side, so that means that the road actually will be no longer parallel to itself, whereas once it was one contiguous road, you could see like on the sides of the road or the lines in the road, you can see how that they would become jiggling out. I'll see if I can find a picture sometime and post that. All right, so they're continuing to have earthquakes here. There was one just as we were talking, let's see, yeah, about 5 minutes ago, which was another fairly significant one, a 4.3. And but so even though this one says Cyril Valley and this one says Ridgecrest, they've been going back and forth, Cyril Valley, Ridgecrest, Cyril Valley, Ridgecrest, but they're probably within a very short period of distance from each other. It's considered a cluster or a stack. So kilometers is what they go on. And so you think kilometers in terms of miles. A kilometer is a little less than a mile. So yeah, 1 mile, this one was 3 kilometers. So that was probably in the 2.2 mile deep range. It was an island as we're talking. Like I said, it just continues to shake, shake, shake. With this much shaking just still going on, there may be some more significant, it's no longer aftershock when you get another significant earthquake. This could be building up to something more. Like I said, if this same event happened just 100 miles southwest of where it is, that would be that little notch there. That's where LA is. This is Catalina Island, and San Diego is down here. This little gray blob here is where the Bay Area is, and you can see that the fault line runs right through the middle of that area. In fact, I was born up here north of the Bay and Santa Rosa, and there's been lots of quakes in that area. So let's zoom in a little bit on this area and see if we can figure out how many has been going on here by going really. So you can see that they're not right on top of each other, but all the ones in orange are this today, all the one in red are this hour. So I can't even count how many. There's groupings here that are so close to each other at this distance that you can't really see, and these are roads. So there is a road here, and it is possible that if this was a slip fault, and that's what they were trying to say, I think, on the broadcast I was listening to, it is entirely possible that that road could be interrupted by one of these slip faults. Let's see, this is at 1 mile or 3 kilometers. I guess it's even more kilometers to a mile than I originally thought. I think that's not quite right, but anyway. So again, these are just happening as I'm talking, or being reporting just as I'm talking. So this one is, so just on the ones on the screen, this one at the very bottom says 1916 UTC. So here on the East Coast, it's 3:30. So it's probably happened at 3:16, which is just after. So in the amount of time that I've already spent talking, which is less than 15 minutes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 have happened. And all these are, in the fairly, even this more recent one, which was deeper than the other ones, are still pretty close to the surface, what they call on the crust. So the closer to the crust it is, the more shaking will be felt. But the deeper it is, the more distant, typically, it will be felt. Now, there is some exception, and the reason why LA felt it significantly is that This desert is on very loose soil that's fill-in soil from a seabed, from an ancient seabed that was all underwater at one point in the distant past. I don't know if you can see, this is the San Joaquin Valley. This is going up into California. Northern California is, like I said, this is the Bay Area. So you can get an idea, and this is at the 30-kilometer range. So let's zoom back in. Let's see how tight I can get. Where are you? There you are. All right. It's pretty tight. We're already at 500 meters or 200 feet. You can actually see that there is some kind of subdivision of some sort. And it could be that ridge crest right here. Let's see. Yeah, it says ridge crest right there. 12 miles, kilometers north, east, northeast. So that is not ridge crest. So it's possible. This looks like some kind of desalination plant, maybe, that they're showing here. So this is probably a ridge crest right here. You can see that Kern Valley and San Bernardino, Kern County. But there are people out there. It's entirely possible. I haven't heard of any damage other than one landslide was reported, but it's still going on. So those people in that valley probably are feeling these continuing to shake. So some of these newer ones, I'm going to see how far I can zoom in. 300 meters. So you can just at that point start seeing the distinction between, so just taking that one grouping here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Right here in this grouping within this last year, within the last hour, and that's not all of them that have happened within the last hour. All these in this area have been happening, continue to happen. So I would say my first guess was 24, but it looks like at least 36 or more are being reported. And these are just the 2.5s. Let's do something. So if you've never been to this site before, clicked on the wrong thing. List. The list. There we go. So you settings that gives you the options. The default value is 1 day of magnitude 2.5. And let's look at a all magnitudes view. Doesn't add that many more, but some. I see 1.9, 1.5, 1.8, 2.0, 1.9, 2.0. These are all, almost every single one of the, well, since I'm zoomed in this close. So every single one of these that I'm scrolling by so quickly, that entire screen is filled from top to bottom of distinct earthquakes. Let's go down here to the bottom and see. So the first, this one, time-wise, was back at 1607. So that was a precursor or a pre-quake. Forequake? Pre-quake? Another earthquake? 2 of them. Here's the bigger one. So there, the highest level is red. So a lot of people were feeling this 7s, and did you feel it? And the shake map, which is the shake map is a little bit different than did you feel it. These are actually people that are reporting this, and this is one that predicts how many people could feel it. So let's click over to the one that I had saved here. So, and that is not that was one of the 2 that happened. So the did you feel it? The 6.4. So let's go into that. And it'll show you, kind of hard to see at this resolution, but you can see that the parameters here, so here's where the quake is, where the star is, and these are all the places that some person actually came to the site and recorded that they felt it. Most of these were pretty weak, so those the blues up to the green is very light. So it doesn't look like anybody in the immediate area felt it. So, but I did hear that people in Las Vegas also felt it, and it's possible that people up in San Francisco Bay Area might have felt it, or at least if they have a shake meter, which a lot of people do, they probably at least were able to detect it as far north as Sacramento and the Bay Area here, maybe even up to Reno and down into Phoenix. It's always